Welcome everybody to Geeking Classics, my little segment here on Geeking Poetic podcast where I like to talk about potentially classic moments of television from the olden days that usually meant something to me personally. Today, we're going to be talking about a classic television moment that relates to a movie that meant a lot to me as a kid. In 1978, one of my favorite films of all time was released, Superman the movie. I was just a little kid at the time, and at the perfectly ripe age to be completely mesmerized by this movie. My parents took me to see this a couple of times at the theater before its original run ended. Luckily for me, that same year, my parents also bought our first VCR, a Betamax of course. Within a year or so, Superman the movie was released on home video, and my parents rushed right out and bought it for me. I watched this movie over and over and over again, to the point where I could quote it by heart, and I knew it like the back of my hand. Now fast forward a couple of years to a night in 1982. As some of you older viewers might recall, networks like NBC and ABC would frequently show their movie of the week during prime time. And this was the days before internet, and even before widespread cable, so it was a pretty big event. ABC acquired the rights to show Superman the movie that year, and decided to air it over 2 consecutive nights. As it happens, when it aired, I was in hot water with my parents because I kind of got in trouble at school for not doing my homework like I was supposed to, so they told me I wasn't allowed to watch Superman on TV with them that night. No biggie. Man, I'd seen that movie so many times already, I knew that by heart anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. But as I sat in the other room doing my dreaded homework that night, I could hear the television in the living room. And as I sat there listening, I could hear all this dialogue and music and different things happening that made me realize, what is this? I don't know what this is because I've seen this so many times. I know that scene that I just heard was not in my movie. I quickly became certain that this was not the dialogue that I was familiar with. It turns out that this was the first airing of the now infamous 188-minute cut of Superman the movie that was exclusively given to network television. This edit of the movie featured a full 45 minutes of extra scenes and music that were not in the theatrical release. I pleaded to my parents to let me come in the other room and watch this movie with them. And they said absolutely no way. Because I was in trouble, I needed to get this homework done. Ugh. Needless to say, I frantically got my homework done so I could try to catch some of it. And I was able to watch the entire second night and the tail end of the first night. I was stunned at all the scenes that were included in this movie. Some of them were arbitrary and not really all that important, but other scenes were totally breathtaking to me. And I could not wait to talk to the kids at school about it the next day. Unfortunately, it seemed that most of the other kids in school didn't watch it either. Probably because most of them, like me, had already seen it a million times and didn't think it was that important. None of us knew that the ABC version was going to be any different. So, nevertheless, the kids all called me a liar and told me I was making stuff up because they couldn't believe that there would actually be a significantly different version of it on TV. And because we didn't know it was going to be any different, sadly, we didn't bother taping it. So I had no proof whatsoever that this weird extended version of Superman even existed. For years when it would come up in conversation, I would tell people about this version of the movie, and at least 99% of the time, people had no idea what I was talking about and had never heard of it. Then, enter the internet and YouTube. When finally, I not only found other people who knew about this movie, but I could also find information about how that version came about, why it came about. I even found people that told me that it had been aired other times than just the one time I saw it in 1982. Apparently, this was a version that the Salkinds had put together specifically to be aired on network television, with no plans of it ever being put out on video or back in the theaters. Due to it being shown in different markets at various different times in the early 1980s, There's a bunch of people out there that were seeking out this version of the movie just like I'd been. Eventually, some folks uploaded low-quality versions of it on YouTube so I could at least see it again, which was satisfying to say the least. For years, I and other fanatics like myself thought we were going to have to settle for this low-quality version of it. Since this extended edit had been specifically made just for early broadcast television, it was thought that no higher quality version ever existed anymore. But last year, the Warner Archive Collection actually located a high-quality print of this in their archives and have since released it on Blu-ray to the public as Superman the Movie Extended Cut. It was amazing to finally have a high-quality official copy of this mythical movie that I loved so much. That for many years, I'd almost been convinced I had made this up in my childhood mind somehow. But thanks to the internet, and to a bunch of people like you out there, I now can watch this movie whenever I want. It's really cool seeing the extended version. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you watch it. You can check out low-quality versions of it on YouTube. You can get the Blu-ray still through, most places you buy Blu-rays and stuff. It's worth every penny. It's really cool. Anyways, on that note, I hope some of you found this interesting and enlightening. I learned a lesson about making sure to tape everything and get your homework done, because it really pays, because you miss good stuff when you don't do your damn homework. On that note, I'm Larry Roberts. Take care from Geeking Classics.